Alright guys, so let's be honest, we all love a good hyperlapse like this one. But how do you actually make it in the easiest way possible? Well, today I'm going to show you how to make a quick gimbal hyperlapse on any gimbal. So let's get straight into it. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I absolutely freaking love hyperlapses, mainly because it gives a different perspective to what we normally see. But because they're a little bit harder than time lapses, people generally tend to get scared away by them. But they're actually really, really easy. Now we've got these crazy gimbals that anyone can get their hands on. So most people will tell you need a bunch of accessories to do a hyperlapse, like a shutter release cable, ND filters, a tripod, blah, 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 blah. But this really does not suit my workflow when I'm running around an event trying to capture content. I don't have time to be stopping, messing around with a whole bunch of accessories, trying to get awesome hyperlapses. So how I do my hyperlapses is way easier, takes way less time, and you don't need a whole bunch of accessories to do it as well. All you need is your camera and your gimbal. So first up, we need to set the resolution. So whatever is the highest on a camera, you might have 4K, 2.7K, 1080p, 720p, whatever is the highest on your camera, make sure you set it to that. So next up is the frame rate. So I've been doing a bit of testing, and this method, the higher the frame rate, the smoother the hyperlapse, because the software has more data to analyze. So I'd recommend shooting at 50 or 60 frames a second, but you know, you can shoot at 24, 25, 30 as well, and you get just as good results. All right, now for shutter speed, I generally tend to set mine to 2 to 1 of my frame rate. So if you're shooting at 25 frames a second, you want to be at 50. If you're shooting at 50, you want to be at 100 or 180 degrees if you're using shutter angle. But if you can't set your shutter speed to 2 to 1 of your frame rate, don't fret, not that big a deal. It just means you'll have reduced motion blur, which isn't a big deal anyway, because we're going to be adding that back in once we go onto the computer. Now to shoot the actual hyperlapse, what you want to do is you want to use your standard gimbal technique. So that's bent knees, go real slow, and keep it nice as like a level as possible. Don't use that up and down movement. And what I do with my feet is I actually step heel to toe and actually touch my heel to my toe when I step. So as you can see, as I'm stepping forward, I'm actually kind of like kicking back and hitting my toe with my heel. And what this means is that your hyperlapse is going to be nice and smooth. It's not going to be kind of like speed ramps throughout when you take bigger or smaller steps. Nice and smooth, one consistent speed, and it will look dope. And finally, if you can add a grid to your screen, this helps a big deal, but it's not necessary. All it does is it helps when you're shooting your hyperlapse, your point of interest you can keep somewhere on the grid, and it means that you can keep it central, easy throughout the hyperlapse. Now with the movement itself, obviously going forwards in a straight line is the absolute easiest way to do this, and I highly recommend starting that way. But then once you get good at it, you can start adding in things like tilts and pans and orbits and stuff. Just make sure that when you're shooting, you take your time and you focus on keeping that central point of interest somewhere on the grid or central, so then you can get the smoothest hyperlapse possible. All right, so now we know how to shoot a hyperlapse. Let's actually go out and shoot them. Alrighty guys, so now that we've shot all our amazing hyperlapse footage, we can now bring it into our editing software, speed up the footage, stabilize it, and then add our motion blur, and we are pretty much ready to go. Alrighty, so the first thing we need to do is obviously bring in our footage. Alright, so we've got all our hyperlapse footage here, and what we want to do is we want to bring it into a new comp, and we just want to double check that the settings are right. So 25 frames a second, yes, that is what we want. We'll delete the audio because no one wants to listen to this audio sped up. And then basically we'll find the in and out point of the clip for where the hyperlapse starts and where it ends. So it starts about here and it ends there. So now we trim that up. We can kind of see roughly when we scrub through it what the hyperlapse is going to look like. But now this is where the mistake that some people will make, okay? So there's two ways we can do this. One of them works slightly better than the other. The first one that I don't think works as well is to basically speed up the clip. So we'll go 1000%. So now we've got the hyperlapse sped up and we can see what it's going to look like. That's probably not quick enough. Let's go 5000%. There we go. So we can do it like that. And then we can add our motion blur where we can right click, do time interpolation. and then we can choose frame blending, and now we can see there is the motion blur added back in. It won't actually play back in real time unless you render it out, so if we press enter, we can quickly render this out. And now we can see that the motion blur is added back into the footage. Now what we can do is we can right click and choose nest. Just press enter, we don't need to rename that. And now we can apply our warp stabilization to the nested clip. The reason we do this is that you can't add warp stabilizer to a clip that you've already sped up. You'll get an error like this. And then once it's finished stabilized, the number we want to look at is this auto scale number, okay? Now it's at 150%. We can see that it's done a hectic amount of cropping, and this is just looking absolutely terrible. That is not what we want it to look like. So what we can try to do is we can try bring the smoothness down and try bring this auto scale number down to, I try to go below 110%. Another tip with this is that if you set it to 1% and you can't get it below 110% auto scale, you can actually do decimal places. So you can set this to 0.9, 0.8, you can set it to like 0.1 if you really need to, just to see what it's gonna look like. So now we've got it under 110%. Let's see what this looks like. And look, it's not bad. There's still a few bits in it that are a little bit choppy, and that's the reason why I actually don't use this method. But if you just want to quickly smash something out, this is a very quick and easy way to do it. Now, method 2 is my preferred method. It does take a little bit longer, but the results are far better. So instead of speeding up the clip, what we want to do is we want to do it in reverse. We want to apply warp stabilizer to the original clip and stabilize that clip so it's nice and smooth. Now, generally, because when you're shooting a hyperlapse, the clip is quite long, this might take a little while. So this says it's gonna take 15 minutes to stabilize the whole clip, but the results are gonna be far better anyway. So just go grab a tea or a snack or something and then come back once it's finished. Now I said that I don't actually have any snacks, like. Alrighty. So that took a while, but let's get going. And now if we look through this, you can see how much smoother it is because it has so much more data to process. So now what we do is, now this is stabilized, we right click and we do nest just like we did. And now we actually speed up this clip. So we go into speed settings, I think we did 5,000%. So now we look at it, we can see that it is quite a bit more stable. Add the motion blur back in by doing right click, time interpolation, frame blending. So basically doing this way just gets rid of all those kind of little micro weird jitters and stuff. If you don't care about that, then the first method works absolutely fine and it is super duper quick. But if you want it to be as smooth as possible, then definitely go through, stabilize it first, then nest it, and then add the speed ramp effect. And you just get rid of all those little bumps and stuff. And then we'll just quickly add some color grading, and then this thing is ready to rock. So guys, that is exactly how I make my hyperlapses for my videos. It's super easy, you don't need any extra accessories, and it's super quick to edit up. So guys, if you use this technique, be sure to tag me on Instagram at AndrewMurphyWA so I can check it out. I hope you enjoyed this one, and as always, stay creative, and I'll see you on the next one. See you.